it's a
Hey,
pleasure to meet you both.
you too. Hey, Julia.
Hello.
Um, so we had a chance to watch the screener, and I have to say that I enjoyed it a lot. Like, I think that you did a fantastic job for the 45 minutes that it was. Like, I felt like it could go on. And first, I want to praise you on how great it was. So I'm sorry, because I think the aesthetics that you used, the film grain, however you did that, whether it was post effects or whether it was through the lens, amazing. The 70s vibe was so good, spot on. Like, even the stuff in the dorm. I noticed like that old, I think it was like an old 70s radio or something. Like that was so cool to me. Like that you actually got all that stuff, the Volkswagen, like all of
Yeah.
it.
Thank you so much. The Volkswagen was a great guy named Gus who lives in Bangor, who I was like, I am looking for vintage VW for the shoot. And he was like, yeah, you can use mine. And like put on vintage 1974 plates for us. It was incredible.
So what made you decide to scout that location or shoot in that location that you did?
So the story takes place. So I know what you need takes place at the University of Maine. So I contacted the University of Maine and said, "Can we shoot on campus in the summertime when the students are gone?" And they said, "Of course." So the dorm that you see in the movie is Stephen King's dorm. That's the dorm he lived in when he went to the University of Maine, and the library that they mentioned is the library we shot in. So it's really, really hyper specific for the hardcore Stephen King nerds like myself. I've read everything he's written. I'm really super into it. I'm on the Losers Club podcast about it. Like it's a lifestyle thing that I feel like is I think the best Stephen King adaptations are those that come from the super fans and the people who really know the world work in the world and the multiverse and understand the greater context of his work.
And I understand that this was like a special program for Stephen King that you got accepted into. So how did that happen? How did that work?
So he was running the Dollar Baby program from the late 70s, early 80s, all the way through to this past December when it suddenly ended. And it was something where you could ask for the rights to certain short stories for $1 for 1 year. The contract was restrictive, so it's nonprofit, non-broadcast. So that means that you can't sell it or put it online anywhere, but you can show it at film festivals and private screenings. And then it has to be 45 minutes render. So the reason it's 45 minutes, I know 45 minutes is a long short, but it's also I knew this was probably the only chance I would get to make this film, and I was going to use the entire time because part of the contract is you have to send a copy to Stephen King to watch. So the end game is you go in knowing he's going to see what you do. So I was like, okay, I'm going to make a movie for me and for him, and everybody else in between is bonus. So I feel like that's why it I tried to use all the time I had.
Yeah,
Is my,
go ahead, Paul. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, is my mic working now? Because I've been dead the whole time. So
Oh, hi.
hi, there. Now you can hear me. Okay, sorry about that.
And the cast that is in this, how did you choose the cast?
So there's only four parts in the movie, three speaking. So Caroline Goldenberg, Renee, who plays Elizabeth, I found her through Actors Access, but the rest of them I emailed. I knew I was going to be shooting East Coast and I live in LA, so I was trying to find people who were based on the East Coast. So I just sent out emails to a bunch of universities and colleges on the East Coast and asked if they would forward it to the drama departments, and a bunch of them said yes. So Giovanna, who plays Alice, is from Yale, and Will and Colin are from Syracuse. And so it was really just this by myself doing it and trying to find people who would be in that college age on that East Coast. And I feel like they all did such an incredible job. When you only have four actors in the whole film, they all have to really kill it. And I feel like they all do.
There was something that made this special to, at least to me, because I'll be honest with you, I'm not the biggest horror fan or suspense fan because it scares me, right? I do like some old Stephen King stuff, though. My dad did watch some of them with me. But in this, what I really love that you did is that there is a lot of voice acting, narration, more than like anything else. And it's like a really good story. And that sets it apart from a lot of content today because you didn't go crazy with all this massive special effects or all these weird things to throw in there. You had a really good story.
Well, I think the reason I'm attracted to the story is because it is so small, because it is, you're talking about a character who has tremendous power and is using it for something as small as making someone fall in love with them. And I feel like there's something beautifully pathetic about that, but it also really intriguing because you really have to dive into each one of those characters' motivations because you get to know them so well. And I think Edward is such a fascinating character because he's a screw up. Like he's just somebody with a mental power that doesn't have the mental capabilities to deal with that power. And so you're getting this kind of messy side of that, which I think you don't see too much, that I think is really interesting.
Paul, did you have any questions?
I actually I didn't have a chance earlier. I too am a big Stephen King fan. In fact, I have approximately I think 12 first editions going back to Carrie
Wow.
that I managed to pick up back in the 90s.
That's
And one of these
amazing.
days I want to get some of them autographed by and signed personally, not to eBay. I actually want them to have my name on them.
That's the
Uh,
dream.
and yeah, I could. He's somebody I'd really like to meet, and because I've read a lot of his stuff.
Do you remember reading this story?
No, I don't actually.
Okay.
What's funny is I don't. I've never steered toward the short story stuff. I do the full novel stuff. I remember when it came out and I got a hernia taking it home. Going, God, this is gonna take a while.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was one of the first ones I read. I read it and Carrie and Pet Cemetery on the bus going to junior high, and they were the ones that really dragged me in. But then a few years ago, I realized I hadn't read the Dark Tower series, and then started to read
Yeah.
that, but didn't realize it was connected to kind of everything else that he's written. He has this gigantic multiverse, so I decided to take it upon myself to read
Right.
everything, so that when I finished the Dark Tower, I would get all of that was to get. And so it was the
Yep.
every Easter egg possible shoved into this movie so that the
Yep.
nerds like me can can be excited.
By the way, I would mute at the time, but when Carlo mentioned the radio in the dorm room,
Mhm.
what it was you had that old school record player that folded up into itself.
Yeah, I'd
I actually
actually
I actually
never
had one
seen
of
one.
those. I
Did
actually
you?
had one of those. Yes.
So the dorm room, if I swung my camera around to show you the rest of my apartment, you'd be like, oh, it's the dorm room. Like a lot of the stuff from the dorm from my apartment is in the dorm room. It's just my aesthetic anyway. But I also had a terrific production designer, Jin McComber, who found that record player at a prop house, and I was like, I've never seen a record player like that. It's so cool, super super into it. But I mean, this story, besides aesthetically, has to be set in the 70s or set in the past before the internet, because if you can Google Edward Hamner, it all falls apart, right? Like
Right.
it have this element of that. So I feel like it suited itself just perfectly.
Yep. And the high waters were a nice touch. I figured either high waters or bell bottoms would have worked.
Well, we had to be able to see his mismatched
Yes.
socks, right? And he's wearing high top Converse, so they have to be
Yes.
like even higher than normal because you have to see it over that.
Yeah, those
I'm
were
glad
real.
you appreciated.
He was really ready for that high water back then. Yes.
He was. You know what they say, your shoes are having a party, inviting your pants to come on down.
But I was going to say, I think the first book I really got into his was probably Misery.
Hmm.
I love Misery. Misery is probably my favorite book.
I feel like that was a unique one because you're getting to read the book within the book.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that I love the movie, but I feel like the movie doesn't do that at all, right? You never really
No.
get to go into that. So I think this is a fun way to get two books in one with that.
Yeah. And I thought it was nice that he basically it was a one room mystery because in the
Hmm.
book you never leave the eye line of Paul Sheldon. It's always what he saw. In the movie they kind of broke away from that, but the movie did a
Hmm.
great job too. But yeah, that was my first, and that was when I went, oh, this is cool. And then from there it was just I was off the rails. Yeah.
So, going back to I know what you need. In this, the socks. Was that
Yes.
something that was actually in the story, or was
Yeah.
that like your take? Okay.
No, it really is in the story, and I really the story gripped me because I have a thing. So I have a podcast called Horror Movie Survival Guide, and we talk about the cute boy killer. So think of like a Norman Bates type, someone who they lure you in, they're very adorable, then they
Mm.
turn out to be psycho, and like it feel like this is falls into that same kind of category that somebody when they describe him in the story, they say, okay, his hair is unkempt, his glasses are dirty, he's wearing mismatched socks, his jacket jacket is too big. Like he really describes him as that. And then he gives her ice cream. And I was like, oh, I would fall for that. Like if I saw that guy, I'd be like, oh, kind of intrigued. So you know that it's going to go badly because it's a Stephen King story. But you know, you're like, oh, well, maybe I could fix him. Maybe, you know, yeah, that kind of feeling of it. And then you know that it's going to terribly because it's Stephen King. And of course it will.
The actor did a great job though when you see her go, I have a boyfriend, and you just see the look on his face go from one thing to, you could tell that okay, things are about to go really sideways here. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm really glad you pointed out that particular shot because you know, I wanted this to seem like it came from the 70s and not like a modern day aping the 70s. So it has a much slower pace. And that shot, those shots in particular of him, his reactions and holding that. I know that they're long takes, but like I feel like everything you need to know about the character he's giving you on his face. So shout out to Will Champion for doing such a great job. And also that character has to go from super nerd to romantic lead to crazy psycho, you know, all within this very short span. I feel like he's able to nail all three. Also, he's British.
Oh, is he really?
Probably didn't know, did you?
Didn't
Though?
notice
No,
that.
I would have never guessed that. No,
Yeah.
never guessed that in a million years.
His accent's impeccable.
Yeah. Also the bit with the jacket. He's wearing, even in the shorts on the water, he's wearing that jacket. I'm like, okay, this is kind of weird, but
And I don't know how many of the Easter eggs you caught on that jacket, but there's plenty.
Yeah.
See, he does describe him in the story as wearing a too large fatigue jacket, but we also have Randall Flagg smiley face button. We have his caw pin, and on the back is the peace sign from Hearts in Atlantis. So just within the jacket alone, for all the nerds like me, they go, yes.
Well, I did pick up they mentioned Derry, and they mentioned one of the other towns,
Castle Rock.
Castle Rock, and I'm
Mhm.
like, hey, now I know kind of where they're at.
Yeah, you can kind of picture it in the fictional world of Stephen King.
Yep. Very.
How long?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, how long did it take to film this and then edit it?
So I crowdfunded the film and we shot for a week on the campus. And so we stayed in the dorm that we shot in. And so it was like a little bit of a summer camp being away for a week and shooting in Maine, which is, that campus is so beautiful. That state is so beautiful. People are so nice. And so it took about from the crowdfunding campaign to completion about 2 years. So I had the contract originally in 2019. The pandemic got in the way and they had an extension. So normally I got 2 years, which should have taken 1 year. But sadly, the program is no more. So he just ended it in 2023. And so this is going to be one of the last ones, and definitely the last one of this story.
Oh wow. That is kind of sad because you know, I was hoping, and this is just a long shot in the dark, right? I know it probably won't happen, but Stephen King sees this and he's like, let's turn this into a movie. You know, like I would really love to see this turn into like a full length feature film. I thought it was that well done.
Thank you. Well, I would love to have done it as a feature. I feel like I could have, I mean, I don't feel like all you need to do is really add Alice's flashbacks where she's talking about his childhood, add that to the actual film, and like you're pretty good to go. It's not that far
Right.
away from it. But yeah, I mean, I imagine somebody will make it into a feature someday. I hope it would be me. That would be lovely. Let's send it into the universe, make it happen.
There you go. Yeah. I just had a question and I lost it.
So to get like that film aesthetic that you did,
Mhm.
was it lenses that you used or was it post-editing effects?
So it's a little bit of both. So Panavision, thank you to Panavision for giving us a camera package. They gave us a large amount of very beautiful 70s lenses. And so that's why it looks so dreamy, as we had the lenses from the 70s. And then we also went back through and added a lot of grain and a lot of softness and effects in post-production, including Q marks, 16 millimeter Q marks. So we wanted to make it feel as real as possible. And a lot of people say that they think it really was shot on film. And I wish we could have, but I was so thankful to Panavision for grateful generosity to make it look so beautiful. And my cinematographer, Alex Simon, of course.
It's really cool that you actually got a hold of lenses from the 70s,
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
lenses have come a long way.
they
Yeah.
have. And I think it makes a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what I was gonna say, and I think I just lost. No, I know. The pacing, when there are a couple of sequences like when he rejoins her after a certain event happens, and you do that little montage of them going through their day or days,
Mhm.
and I just thought that was a nice little touch. Just to show a little bit of the development of the relationship over that length of time.
Thank you. Who doesn't love a good montage? I do. There's a couple. It's only 45-minute film, but we got a couple of them in there.
Yeah.
And I really had a lot of fun with the effects in that and trying to make it look like a 70s montage and not a modern montage. So it was a lot of fun to do a lot of research and watch a lot of movies from that time period, a lot of after school specials, and see the kind of visual effects they were using at that time.
There's something there's something in this that really like jumped out at me that I thought was so phenomenal. It was the grief scene and how
Mm.
you were able to shorten that in such a short time span, but it seemed like, in film length, it seemed like a long time for the character. You did a beautiful job with that.
Thank
How
you.
how many takes did that take? How many days just to do that alone?
No, that was just not that long. That was just, we're shooting you here on the bed and now we're moving you over here to the corner and now we're moving you over here to the kitchen. So it didn't take very long. But we wanted to so a lot of that was the thing about working in film is beautiful because it's a collaboration, right? So the lighting, or my gaffer Sam had ideas about the lighting, my cinematographer Alex has ideas there, and then I go to post-production, my editor Rick has ideas about what we can do with overlays, what we can do with the backgrounds to make it pop. And a lot of people actually mentioned that montage in particular. And so thank you for saying that. It's very brief, but I feel like it really does convey a large amount of motion in a very small amount of time. So well done to Caroline for doing that because she killed it.
Caroline, you're awesome.
Caroline is awesome.
And the other thing that I really enjoyed about this, I don't know if it's a spoiler or not. I hope not, but we could always cut it if it is. But towards the end, I feel like the ending was such a mind twist in a sense because it almost felt like she got the power now and she ripped the picture.
Hmm.
And and there was a key word he said is that you'll never be satisfied.
Hmm.
So it's almost like now does she have the power? Because
Oh, nobody has actually ever mentioned that. I'd never
Yeah.
thought of that before.
Yeah.
No, I've never thought of that. I'm not mad at it.
Yeah.
I feel like she would do a better job with it.
I just thought he was psychically linked to the objects. So when she
Yeah,
destroyed the object, that's why his nose gushed out.
right. Yeah, that was the intention, but I'm
Yeah.
not mad at her getting the power because I think a big question with this story is what does happen next? What happens
Right.
to him? What happens to her? What happens
Well,
to her and Alice? I don't know.
well, at the end when she did what she did, you heard him scream in the background. So I'm assuming that he, a little spontaneous,
Mm, I don't know.
who
It's
knows
up for you
though.
to decide.
That's right. Only Stephen King may know. Who knows?
But I really did try to keep the ending faithful. But in the end of the story, in his closet, he has the Necronomicon, which in
Ah,
1976 would have been a Lovecraft reference, and now it's an Evil Dead reference. And so I felt like it would have been confusing, and so that's why I kind of altered it to have the objects, but also to have the nosebleeds,
right,
and the mental push power like Andy McGee has in Firestarter, and so we could
right,
kind of keep it within the same universe. And I feel like the powers. It's the same end
right.
result, and just kind of a different thing.
Yeah, that way there's no audience confusion. They're going to see this thing.
Yeah, I see the
Yeah.
Necronomicon and go, wait, what? What?
um but no, I mean overall this was just such an amazing film between the film shots that you did, the camera angles, the film grain, the montage scene,
Yeah.
the end scene, like you used even different lighting effects when she was like angry. I caught all that and like I thought that was
Thank
great.
you.
Another part that I really enjoyed, and I'm not, this could have been in the original story and maybe you just translated it, but when her roommate kind of pulled out the newspapers and put two and two together, the
Mhm.
detective and all that, was
Yeah,
that,
that
was that,
uh,
was it?
that's how that happens in the story. So the story was written in 1976. So you really, this is the reason the story works is because you can't look somebody up in the internet because someone can have a past, and the only way you can dig it out is by private investigators. So Giovanna, who plays Alice, is a theater actress, and so she just basically learned that entire scene like a monologue and just ran through it from different camera angles. And we had all of the, evidence that she had made up, and so we have, and if I had a bigger
Mm,
budget, would I love to show all of that? Of course, but I feel like it works just as well with her telling it, and you can see it building on
yeah.
what Edward's past is.
And the way they set it up by explaining that she's basically a rich girl, you know,
Hmm.
her stuff is paid for. She has access to all these resources that, so
She,
it kind of lays it out that
yeah,
if you wouldn't have laid that out, then, well, how did she do all this in such a short period of time?
she just has
You
to
know?
ask father.
Yeah.
I didn't pick up on that. That's good. I didn't pick up on
Yeah.
that. That's
Yeah, she says father's itching to get on his boat. So,
Yeah.
we know the
Yeah.
family's got a little bit of money's
Well,
paid
yeah,
for.
and even at the first team they're together, and and she goes, "Well, you have your school is paid for,
Yep.
yeah, so oh, right, okay, so parents are loaded."
Mhm.
so. What was one of the most challenging parts of getting this project done? And then on top of that question, what was one of your favorite parts of this project?
Challenging was doing pre-production by myself during the pandemic. That was very panic-inducing. I had no idea what was going to be happening, and it was not a good place in the world. And this was something to give my attention to, which was lovely, but also something that, when you're trying to make a movie and getting it set up by yourself is also really, really overwhelming. But going there was 22 of us all together, cast and crew. We all stayed in that dorm, and we all got along so well, and it was so much fun, and the nothing went wrong, and it was just this kind of magical dreamlike experience that you talk to any of us who were on the cast or crew, and we're all like, that was like this crazy dream, right? Like we came in and we did this thing. We lived in 70s Stephen King land for a week, and then it was gone, but you see it on screen, and I feel like some of that magic transfers to the screen, I think.
Yeah. So did you get to meet Stephen King in this whole process?
I have not met Stephen King, sadly not yet, but I hope to one day. I would love to. He is the guru, the hero.
Yes.
But I know he's seen the trailer for this movie, and I know he's seen this movie, and I know that he listens to the Losers Club podcast that I'm on, so he knows I exist, and that's pretty much all you can ask for, really, right?
Yep.
So behind you, is that all VHS tapes? I've been looking
Yep.
at the
Uh-huh.
that's
This is my infamous color-coded wall of VHS. Yes. I'm in a documentary called Rewind This that's about VHS collection. So there it is. It's beautiful, but every time you get a new tape, you have to shift everything down by one. So that's the downside.
oh wow. Okay.
Yep.
I'm
I
gonna
had those
is
kind of
that is
collections
that out?
myself.
Because I'm gonna have to find that. Rewind this.
Rewind this. Oh yeah, you can stream that.
All right, yeah, I'm gonna have to take a look at that.
Hmm.
Yeah, I've had those kind of collections. It's like collecting comic books, and you get this one book that goes in the middle of the stack that's going to shift everything off by one.
Hmm. Yep. But
Um,
it's also, the Pet Cemetery that the copy of the VHS of Pet Cemetery I was obsessed with when I was 12 is this copy on the shelf that I can still
Oh,
play, that
nice.
still works fine. And like that's that physical holding it in your hand thing that's just as beautiful.
Right.
and then
I'm
last question that I have is will you be at San Diego Comic-Con this year?
Yes, I will be. I will be at Comic-Con. So I'm going to be on a panel on Thursday, the 25th at 8:30 in room 10. That is called Recast Monsters. That's classic horror comics that are gender swapped. And then I Know What You Need plays Friday, the 26th at 1:45 in the Grand Six Ballroom at the Marquis, the Marriott Marquis. And I will be there. William, who plays Edward, will be there. Caroline, who plays Elizabeth, will be there. My editor will be there. My DP will be there. And my first AD will be there.
funny. Everybody we talk to, they're all going to be doing stuff on Thursday night there, Carlo. You're going to be in like 6 different places at once. Yeah.
Clone power. This is when you activate the clone power.
Yeah, if only Stephen King could write that in for me, right?
Yeah, I know, right? But as far as I can tell in my interaction obtusely with Stephen King, is that he seems to be an incredibly nice person who but ran this program just to help young filmmakers get their names out there. And I feel like that's an incredible thing that he didn't have to do, that he does on top of giving us all of this wonderful things to read. So I'm very grateful to him.
And then Paul, if you want to ask the icebreaker question.
I'm going to break you of that. The question we ask everybody at the end of the interview, so it's not really an icebreaker. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Fuck yeah.
Sorry. Nope. All right.
Okay.
I'm going to
That's
have
all
to
right.
have Stephen King going to have to write a story about how pineapple on pizza
No
kills
judgment.
people.
No judgment here. But I am online if you would love to talk to me. I'm on all of the things as Julia Marchese, and I also have some podcasts: Horror Movie Survival Guide, Losers Club, and
Yeah, I'm gonna have to
Jodorowsky.
check out the horror because I do some horror stuff with even with these guys. I brought in some horror directors and producers and
Oh,
stuff.
sweet.
Carlo doesn't usually watch it, so you actually need to document that Carlo actually watched a horror-based story
Okay,
for our little
it's not
chat.
scary though, right?
Yeah, well, he not to me, but with Carlo, you never know, you know. Is there anything else you're working on now that this is done and you're at this point? Are there anything
Yeah,
else coming up?
I have a bunch of scripts that are waiting for people to finance. So if you know somebody who wants to make my next movie, let me know. You know, this is the Hollywood dream.
And there you go.
Awesome. Um, well, thank you so much for talking with us. And AJ, thank you for setting this up. And Julia, I will be at SDCC with my
Cool.
co-host, Paris Lockhart. He works for Xbox, but he'll be there with me. So hope to run into you or meet up somehow and introduce you guys.
That would be
Um,
great.
yeah, but thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you for talking to me today. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right. Long days and pleasant nights.
Thank you. Goodbye. Thank you.